Democratic Socialists are celebrating their New York City sweep after 3 ultra-progressive congressional candidates won their primaries. Leaders within the Democratic Socialists of America are reportedly looking for ways to keep the momentum going across the country and potentially all the way to the White House. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany here with my co-host Emily Campagno and Harris Faulkner. Also joining us, Rachel Campos-Duffy, Fox & Friends weekend co-host, or host, I should say, and author of All-American Patriotism, celebrating 250 years of America's greatness, a New York Times bestseller. And joining us on the couch for the first time, Francis Suarez, Fox News contributor and the 43rd mayor of Miami. Well, let's start here. It is the biggest story of the day. Several media outlets already calling Democratic Socialist Mayor Zoran Mamdani the left's new kingmaker, after his 3 endorsements swept New York City's primaries. He says their far-left policies are the way of the future.
This is your victory. What you all have shown this evening, whether for state assembly, state senate, or Congress, is that a year ago, it was not the end of a political movement. It was the beginning. And let's hear it for a politics that will never forget working people. For a politics that is ready to write a new chapter in our party's history.
But not everyone is on board with this anti-capitalist, anti-Israel platform. This morning, protesters gathered outside of a Brooklyn coffee shop that banned Jewish Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman, calling him a genocide enabler. Goldman was one of the incumbents who was defeated by a Democratic Socialist candidate last night. And some of his fellow Democrats say the hate-filled rhetoric is dividing the party.
They should form their own party. They try to crash our party, the Democratic Party. They're going to be loud, and we have to just remind everybody that where our country is. They want common sense. They want people to solve problems. They want people screaming and yelling and being against law enforcement or standing up and saying our country is not the greatest country in the world.
I mean, these are the people who we are electing, and that they're going to send them here to Congress. Someone who wants to abolish our border and abolish prison, that's not a Democrat. That's a full-on lunatic. I can't imagine, this is the kind of model that we're going to win real elections.
But listen to this. Politico reports that the socialist far left is now looking to ride the wave of support all the way to 2028, writing, quote, Democratic Socialists of America leaders eager to capitalize on their momentum are already plotting their next act. Make sure one of their own is on the presidential primary debate stage, whether the party wants them or not. Wow. This is a serious moment, and we have the perfect person here, Mayor Suarez. I'm a Floridian like you. I grew up in the Cuban community who loved freedom and escaped communism and socialism all through the Tampa area. My friends, my neighbors in Miami, they know that all too well. What do you think as you see a socialist leading Seattle, leading New York City, and now all the way down the ballot in New York?
And in Washington, D.C., a socialist as well. So, look, I think it's an attempted rebrand of something we've seen time and time again that's never worked. This concept that government is the arbiter of all problems, is the solver of all things. And we saw in Miami the formula that worked. We lowered taxes every single year. We had unprecedented growth, 367% growth in 8 years. We kept people safe, and that brought tremendous amounts of investment into our city. And then we leaned into an American economy, an innovation economy. And what we're seeing here with this rebranding of democratic politics into really socialist politics is we're seeing a city that is anti-U.S. Values. And that is going to be something that ejects people from the city. People are leaving New York in droves. That's going to have a tremendous waterfall effect, and it's going to hurt the very people who he claims to want to protect, the working class. And so it's going to be sad to see, I call it a death spiral. We're going to be watching this death spiral unfold in front of us. And unfortunately, cities like Miami will benefit.
Yeah, they will benefit in New York to the detriment in Seattle and D.C., and who knows, maybe in L.A. where you've got Nithya Raman on the ballot. Sure. Rachel, I thought of you because you're a very vocal voice on socialism and capitalism. And I thought of you when Speaker Johnson said this. Listen to this.
These are the times that Reagan was warning about. He was warning about communism overseas. Now it is on our own shores. And it is a very serious time, and every American needs to wake up and understand a threat. Are we going to maintain our status as a constitutional republic on our 250th anniversary? Are we going to make a new choice and go down some road towards a communist utopia? That's the choice right now. We've been saying for months it's a contrast election. We've been saying it's a contrast between common sense and crazy.
We're at a crossroads.
Yeah, I'm so glad he said that. And I agree with everything that the mayor said. However, I'm not as rosy in my glasses as you are. I'm a little less optimistic because, first of all, this is a huge threat. 2028, you will see a socialist, a communist on the debate stage. And if Zoran Mandani was not born in Uganda, he would be that candidate. He's just disqualified because he's not born here. So this is happening, and they've softened up our youth for generations now. You have millennials and Gen Zers who are softened up to socialism because they have been indoctrinated for decades now into this. And so what do they need to get them, to really get them? They need a bad economy. That's how they lured people in Cuba and Venezuela. When things looked rigged, when things looked like people couldn't get ahead, that's when the socialists and the communists come in and get their claws into people. And so the best antidote to this is a kick-ass economy. The Republicans need to show that they can deliver an economy that works for everybody, that young men feel that they have a future and they can get married and they can have kids and they can get a house. That's why this housing thing that we saw happen today was important. But that's also why I have been adamant also about ending this war. This war was hurting our economy. And I want us to vote, unlike here in New York City where we're voting about things happening in the Middle East, I want us to vote about what's happening here in America. And so the antidote to socialism is a great economy that people can believe in socialism and the free market again.
Yeah, but the march is coming. I agree that, we have to take this seriously. This was Hakeem Jeffries in November. He's, of course, the leader of the congressional Democrats in the House. And he dismissed that this could happen. Listen to this.
You've already cast your ballot for mayoral candidate Zoran Mamdani. Do you see Mamdani as the future of the Democratic Party?
No, I think the future of the Democratic Party is going to fall, as far as we're concerned, relative to the House Democratic Caucus and members who are doing a great work all across the country.
But then this happened last night. He got booed by those same people he said would not be coming into the party. I mean, Harris, whether they like it or not, they are coming.
No, they're already there. I mean, they've been there since Bernie Sanders was left cold and in tears on the convention floor. I remember it. I mean, they ushered in Hillary Clinton, and he and his wife were standing right next to me. And I thought, oh, wow, they just took this from Bernie. I mean, and the Democrats do that. They pick somebody, and then they put that person on the ticket. But that's how they were able to kind of build the game here. We had, surprisingly, I didn't see this coming in Mike Tobin's reporting just a few minutes ago on The Focus, an alderman, Democrat from Chicago, talking about the rising crime, that burst of killings and shootings that we see almost every summer. Democrats can't figure out with all that federal money and purpose it in a way to keep their own citizens safe. So, it's on them. But he called out the socialists in his party, local politics, the aldermen, who would love it if they would just, get rid of the police. He said this is happening because you have people behind the scenes, and I'm paraphrasing him now, that are willing to do some of this. No one saw that coming. I bet no one knows who Raymond Lopez is. I bet they do now. This isn't just in coastal areas. That's our nation's third largest city. This is the middle of the country, too. It's been coming. It's been there. It's a disease. It is malignant. And I think it's metastasizing.
It's growing quickly, Emily, because if you look at Gallup polling among Democrats, there's a +1 view of capitalism. This was just a few years ago. Now it's a +24 view of socialism as juxtaposed to capitalism.
Crazy.
This is what happens. This is the camel nose in the tent. This is what happens when a few years ago you say our tent should include everyone. So the Democrats have gotten exactly what they frankly paid for a few years ago. Those rational Democrats that are still in the tent or leadership that are saying, like, this is an insurgency, this is a takeover of the party, this isn't us. Well, that's your fault. That's your problem now. But the problem is it's been made the entire United States problem. And I note this because you are exactly right. that all of the policies that we saw here and received with such exasperation and noting that they were so juvenile as to comment on free buses and free housing, the reality is they were always socioeconomic. They're not the ones saying, let's have boys in the girls' bathroom. Now, they call the president a transphobe in the Oval Office, but my point is that all of their messaging was about economics, as faulty and ridiculous as it was. And the takeaways here are that all messaging from the GOP needs to be on brand and on soil. What are kitchen table issues that Americans are focusing on? Now, we know that they're still dealing with crime in blue cities, and they're still dealing with boys taking away their girls' opportunities. They're still dealing with no one listening to them at that local level in these blue cities and states. But the GOP needs to focus on economics, because that is what helped turn the tide here. Granted, everyone is using a different risk analysis system and different data points because they're thinking socialism's going to solve the issues. A few other takeaways, too. The New York Times highlighted some of these, and I thought it was interesting to know what they're saying about it. They said the Mamdani name last night was magic. They're crediting him with these endorsements. They talk about that the Kennedy Scion was bested, all of the millions of dollars pumped in by outside groups, that pro-Israel candidates are increasingly vulnerable by both the left and the right. And then, interestingly, the coming showdown in the Hudson Valley, right? We know that the Democrats are putting forth a U.S. Army veteran, a female. She's a centrist. She's criticized some immigration issues and decisions from this administration. But the point is, she's running against Rep. Lawler. So there is still sort of a central or centrist argument here amongst this. Yeah. That they're trying to play, but they have opened that tent, and now the whole camel's inside.
But over the long term, the real problem is in our school system. And until we clean out the Marxists out of our curriculum and out of our schools, it's really upon all of us. If you're not talking to your kids about socialism, somebody else is. And so you gotta address the root of the problem.
Real quickly, the president did cancel the signing on that housing bill. I know that got brought up at some point during the conversation. He wants to see the Save America Act first. But you're right, those domestic issues have to be front and center. So we don't know when that comes back into play. He's got it before him. It's bipartisan support. So when he wants to, he'll sign it, but not this hour. He's supposed to do it this hour. No, of course.
Yep, and he is going to push for the Save America Act alongside Rick Scott and Mike Lee. So 80% of you want that. We'll see if congressional Republicans can get it.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.